Hi everybody. Today I would like to address one of the most important topics in the modern age, which I believe is why so many students are struggling to motivate themselves to do schoolwork, why so many educators are struggling to motivate their students to sit down and learn, and why so many teenagers nowadays struggle to be enthusiastic and compelled about real life. They just kind of seem to be bored, and they seem to be disengaged with the real world. And the reason for that, I truly believe that it is the influence of technology. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today, because I sent out an email to our Conquer School parents to ask them what are some of the major factors that they believe that should be improved in the modern education system. And the overwhelming answer from them was that technology should be completely removed, or perhaps it should be monitored, but generally that technology should be mitigated as much as possible, because they struggle so much with getting their kids to put their phones, video games, Netflix, those types of things away at home. And they know that when the kids show up to school, similar things are happening. Now, just to address some statistics of how severe this issue is, I looked up some stats from 2019 to 2021. So this is during the COVID year. So perhaps the statistics are a little bit inflated there compared to right now. However, I think they're still significant based on the trend that's been happening. And this is something that I'm going to link to this video, either on YouTube or on Instagram, so you can check out the statistics that came out. But basically, over 40% of teenagers, that is ages 13 to 17, 13 to 19, somewhere in that range, over 40% spend over 8 hours consuming content online per day. Over 8 hours per day. That's incredible. 8 hours of waking time is a lot. It's a full-time job. So at Conquer School, on the How to High School program, on one of the weeks, we do a time reallocation exercise where we basically track the amount of time that is being spent on social media, on schoolwork. Basically, where is your time going throughout the week? And every student that's part of the program is going to fill it out, and then they will submit it. And they do this based off of their screen time that is shown on their phone, or at least for the social media, the YouTube, the Netflix part that they use for their phone. And here are the statistics. So on average, I've mapped out that an average student at Conquer School that goes through the program consumes content for about 40 hours per week. So their screen time, the useless screen time, is 40 hours per week. Now, mind you, there's only 168 hours in a week. So 57, 60 of those hours you're not awake. So there's only about 100 hours-ish of waking time for you to do work and for you to do things in life. 40 of those are being used for just consuming content, just going down the drain, watching random things. Now, if you do that for a week, you might say, okay, well, it's 40 hours. It's okay. It's like it's 5.5 hours a day ish, 40 hours a week. It's not too bad. But the picture gets a lot worse when you start to multiply this, and when the kids do this over many, many years and perhaps decades. Because what's important is not what's happening right now, but the trajectory that they're on. What is going to happen to these minds, these brains, when they grow up? What is going to happen when they are 30, 35, 37 years old, and our society expects them to perform and to do good things in life? What are their brains going to be like? Where are they going to be? And that's something important to note. So if we multiply the 40 hours per week by 52, which is the number of weeks there are in a year, we get about 2,080 hours per year of content consumption. Just take away the number of hours there are in a year and just subtract 2,000 hours from that. That's how much time they have left to do the important things in life. Now you multiply that by another 10 for the next decade to see the trajectory, and that will be 20,800 hours in the next 10 years, which is about 3 years. So about 3 out of the next 10 years, these kids are going to be spending their time staring at a screen, consuming random content. I'm going to say that again. 3 years out of the next 10, full 3 years of waking time will be spent staring at a screen, consuming random content. If that's not alarming to you, that's cool. There's nothing else you need to watch in this video. But if you find that these statistics are probably not suitable for our society, or you think this is a little crazy, then stick around, because I'm going to talk more about the general philosophy that we employ at Conquer School to get the kids to understand this stuff and how to manage it. I do not believe that you can force somebody to do something or not to do something when they don't understand it. The most powerful way to change somebody's behavior is to convince them that it's in their interest to do it. What do I mean by that? If the enthusiasm for changing their behavior or mitigating screen time or understanding how screen time works and how it's detrimental to them, if that can be successfully shown to the students, then they will regulate it themselves, because the most powerful way to do that is to get internal enthusiasm for it. And so here's how we do it. Number one, I think you can employ rules, you can do a lot of different things to try to mitigate that screen time, but what's going to happen is that these kids are going to rebel against it. Whether you like it or not, that's just our human nature, is that when we don't understand something is being taken away, we're going to find ways to still do it. So, they're going to go to the bathroom and like use their phone, or they're gonna sneak it into their room before bedtime, or they're gonna sneak it into their backpack when they go to school. They're gonna do things to try to still use that screen time, because they haven't been convinced that it's actually bad for them. They just think, my parent is angry, or my teacher's just angry at me and just grumpy, that's why they don't want me to do this. They need to understand why. And the first point that I want to make here is tell the students why this is in place. What is the point of it? And it shouldn't be like, because I said so. That's not going to compel any action. But explaining to them the statistics and explaining to them that, like, hey, you told me that you want to be a doctor, right? Okay, well, how do you expect to compete against all these other pre-med students or all these other applicants that will be applying to medical school when there's only 3% that get in? How do you expect to compete against them when you have 20 or you have 2,000 hours less than them per year? Are you sure you're going to be able to make it? Are you sure you'll be able to be at the top 3% to achieve your goal? Like, yeah, I'm not sure I'll be able to do that. Right? Or perhaps they're practicing a sport, and it's like, okay, cool, so you're dedicating all this time, but you know that other successful individuals in the sport, they're not just training and then going home and playing video games. They're training, they have a nutrition plan, they work out on their own, they do extra practices, they do so many other things, and that is why they're successful. That is why they're outperforming you. Now, your time is mainly going towards the next time you get to play a video game, or maybe the next time you get to go on social media, and you spend hours on that a day. So if you would like to achieve those things, that's cool, but you need to make some sacrifices, and you need to make some time. And the easiest way to create some time is just to get rid of the useless things. That's one way to approach it. And the other thing is that I think many students, they see that there's a rule, but the rule only applies to them. And so perhaps parents or educators, they will say, oh, phones are so bad, you shouldn't be using a phone, but then they go and use the phone themselves. Or, for their own leisure time, as soon as they come home from work, it's like they're just on the screen watching YouTube videos, they're watching movies, TV shows, and that's what they do all night till they go to bed, and then go back to work the next day. And it cannot be a double standard. It cannot be rules for thee but not for me. So I think the second point that I would like to make here is that one of the best ways to educate your kids, perhaps, or students, is to lead the way. And leading doesn't mean telling people what to do, but it means showing a good example. So if a teacher says that, hey, there is no phones at school, the teacher doesn't bring a phone to school. If the teacher says, hey, we're going to have a basket outside the classroom where everybody's going to put their phone in there, the teacher is the first one to put their phone in there and turn it off. But you can't be, while the kids are working, you tell them, hey, you shouldn't be using your phone while the teacher's sitting there and clicking on their phone. That's just not going to work. It doesn't even matter if you tell them why. It's just not going to work because they're not going to respect you. They don't think you're sincere. Because if it is really that beneficial to put the phone away and not use it, then why are you doing it? Right? So that's the second thing to consider, is that you must lead the way. You must also have very low screen time, and you must despise it, so that you create an environment for your kids where they see that that's normal. That's like a cool thing to do. Oh, look, my teacher does it. All my teachers do it at my school. They just put the phone away. They keep their screen time below 2 hours a day. They don't have social media, or perhaps they go on social media like once in a while. That's what creates that culture. It starts with the leaders. And teachers or parents, you're naturally leaders in your kids' world. So I encourage you to do that. It's something that I've done with my Conquer School kids. Like when they are assigned to do challenges of waking up early, I wake up early with them. If there's a challenge to do social media detox, I delete social media for that week as well. Like I participate with them because I understand the power of leadership. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. Number 3, and this is perhaps more for the parents rather than the educators. So because I was asked by some of our parents about this in terms of what they should do at home. You have to get them busy. That's the third point, is when you remove all of that time, if they show up at home and they have nothing to do, they finished all their homework, it's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm going to be staring at a wall, I guess. Then it's unreasonable. And so they're going to try to find ways to use technology or to engage in all these things because they literally have nothing else to do. So it's like, well, why not have leisure time? Why not watch a movie? Why not go on social media? I did all my work, right? What else is there to do? So get them involved in extracurricular activities. Get them involved in chess club or a sport where their time and their energy is being spent there. And perhaps when they come home and it's like 9 p.m. at night, they finished all their homework, but it's 9 p.m., they could sit down for an hour and play or do some social media, whatever that might be. I think that's a good way to go, but you have to get them busy. They cannot be bored. If you're taking all that time away, don't take it for no reason. That time has to be taken away and reallocated towards the more productive activities. Number 4, and this is the last one that I have here. There's probably many more if I just thought about it longer, but I want to keep this short and useful and practical. So number 4 is environment. Environment is extremely important to human beings. If you are surrounded by friends who don't go to the gym, they don't exercise, they despise people who exercise, they call them gym rats or whatever that might be, they call them names and muscle heads. And they're in that environment and that kid wants to start working out, or that kid wants to start going to the gym on a regular basis, well, they're not going to be very compelled to do that despite knowing all these things, because their environment says, hey, that's not an attractive thing to do. So, but if you insert yourself in a different environment where, for example, going to the gym is normal, all these friends, they go to the gym after school regularly, and they praise themselves for their achievements, and they constantly talk about the things that they've done, their workout plans, what they're going to do. They're always enthusiastic about it. That creates attraction for that particular habit or that particular activity. So they are naturally more inclined to go and work out. Now, the same principle applies to social media. Now, the biggest problem with schools is that the environment that is established there, in most schools, I would imagine, is that social media is normalized. Like heavy use of social media, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, is normalized. I bet 80-70% of the kids are sitting there and they're not even talking to each other. They're just flipping through TikTok, or maybe they're showing each other TikToks. And that's the majority of the cafeterias in high schools. Now, when you create an environment, so this is perhaps for educators and parents as well, when you create an environment where it's normal, it's actually normal to put the phone away and communicate with each other, where it's normal to avoid social media or heavy use of social media and video games, where it's despised when somebody does it, then naturally a human being, a student, is going to pick up on that, and they're going to be using it. They're going to try to fit into that environment. So perhaps at home, when instead of you sitting down with your chairs aligned around the TV and everybody's just like watching TV as you're having dinner, maybe you turn off the TV or get the TV out of the living room, put it in a closet, and you just sit around a table where you're forced to speak to each other. You're forced to talk about your day. You're forced to have conversations that we all need. And over time, everybody will find it to be a lot more compelling and a lot more interesting. At first, it's awkward. At first, it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. But that's something that I would suggest. So that's my 4 things. Number 1, tell them why. Number 2, lead them. Show them an example. It cannot be rules for thee, but not for me. Number 3, get them busy with other activities. And number 4, create an environment where it is normalized to lower your screen time and it is despised to heavily overuse it. Now, there's 2 important things I would like to mention to conclude this video. Number 1 is I am not totally against technology. I'm not some freak that will be a nomad and, not give out any emails or not even have like a phone number. No, I think technology is phenomenal and it has its uses and it has its benefits. Even Instagram has its benefits, or YouTube. Like I can put these videos out for you to see and learn. And this is how I learn things. So if the internet didn't exist, I wouldn't know these things. I wouldn't know how to behave around people. I wouldn't know how to teach students properly. I wouldn't know these philosophies if I didn't learn them from somebody else across the world. So I think there's plenty of fantastic things about technology, but as all human beings are, we naturally tend to push ourselves towards the pleasureful activities, like just consumption of random content, rather than something that's a little bit more difficult, a little bit harder, which is learning or sitting down doing some math or sitting down and figuring out what you want to do for the future. Those things take more discipline. And I just want to emphasize that, yeah, you should have some screen time. Like playing a video game is okay as long as you're not playing for 3 hours a day or more. Going on social media is okay if you do it sporadically. You go 10 minutes a day. Like I have to actually delete my social media because I know how addictive it is. So that's my second point. So the first point to conclude this is I'm not totally against technology. It could be used to a good use. It could be put to a good use, and I think you should learn how to do that. And that's what we educate kids on. The second thing is that this is not a battle for just the younger generation. This is a battle for all human beings, because we have the same instincts. We have the same tendencies to go and pursue what is pleasurable. And when there is such addictive things like Instagram and TikTok, where there's literally all these thousands of scientists sitting in a lab trying to discover ways to addict you to the thing, it's very easy to fall for it, even for someone like me who knows all the consequences of it. And so we have to create systems for ourselves, not just discipline. Discipline is one thing and willpower is one thing, but you also have to create systems for yourself and for your kids. Educate your kids on how to do that. This is what we do on the How to High School program, where they can decrease their screen time and keep it at a healthy level, because nobody teaches that to them at school, at least that I know of. Not many parents are aware of this. So where are they going to learn it? Who's going to guide them on this? Even I, for myself, every time that I post a video on Instagram, I delete Instagram so that I have more barriers for me to access it. Because when it's there, when it's easy to access, you just one click away, it's too easy to fall for it throughout the day. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I spent 4 hours today on Instagram. That's just how it happens. So you have to create systems for yourself. Something that I do that's very simple, as I said, is I delete Instagram, and then when I have to post again, I reinstall it. And when I have to input the password again, so that's annoying. And if I have that little 5 minutes that I want to go on Instagram or I want to check something out, I'm not gonna do it because I have to enter a password. You see, but I will only go on there when I really have to, and that's really how it should be. You shouldn't be going on social media or playing video games because the thing notified you to do so. You should be going on there because you control your own time. And quite frankly, if our young generation and the current generation of adults don't learn how to control their time effectively, then there isn't too much that we can get done. There isn't too much we can progress in our day-to-day lives. That's everything for today. I hope this message was of value to you and your family. And if it is, please share it to others who you think might benefit from it as well. Thank you very much. I'm out.